Welcome to the Wonderful Seagulls podcast, where we explore the loud, clever, chaotic world of urban gulls.
Before we dive into today's gull story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more urban wildlife, gull behavior, and neighborhood drama.
Today, we're talking about something you've probably walked past 100 times without a second thought: a sleeping gull. We often just see them napping on a beach railing or catching a quick snooze on a roof.
They look so relaxed, but beneath those feathers is genuinely one of the most neurobiologically advanced survival machines on the planet.
Here is our roadmap for this episode. First, we'll look at the illusion of gull sleep, then how they are half awake and dreaming.
After that, the one-legged balancing act, safety in the sleeping flock, extreme sleep adaptations, and finally, why they are the ultimate survivalists.
So let's start with part one, the illusion of gull sleep, more than meets the eye.
When we see a gull resting by the sea, it looks so incredibly peaceful, but what's happening inside their body is completely different from our own biology.
Right, because terrestrial mammals like us need these long, consolidated, multi-hour blocks of deep sleep. And during that time, we're completely unconscious and very vulnerable.
Gulls absolutely do not have that luxury. If a gull just zoned out on the beach for 8 straight hours, it would be extremely vulnerable to predators. It wouldn't last the night.
Exactly. So instead, their sleep is highly fragmented. They piece together their necessary rest in hundreds of tiny, tactical microbouts, spread across a full 24-hour cycle.
It's an amazingly efficient way to stay rested while staying alive.
Which brings us to part two, half awake and dreaming, inside the avian brain.
You might be wondering, how does a bird manage hundreds of tiny microbouts of sleep without becoming totally exhausted?
They rely on a neurological trick that honestly feels like science fiction. It's called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, or USW.
Back in 1985, researchers named Ball and his colleagues proved that gulls can literally sleep with just one half of their brain at a time. Because their brain hemispheres are wired to opposite eyes, the sleeping half of the brain connects to a closed eye, while the awake half stays connected to an open eye.
Which means one eye is always watching out for danger. It completely revolutionized our understanding of sleep. It proved that rest doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing state.
And it gets even more fascinating when they enter REM sleep. Just like us, gulls go into rapid eye movement sleep. This involves intense activation of the visual and motion pathways in the brain.
They're likely replaying their daily spatial experiences, like tricky flight maneuvers or navigating the coastline. It's basically a dreamlike state.
But there is a massive physical trade-off here. Usually, slow-wave sleep increases the flow of cerebrospinal fluid, which washes away toxic metabolic waste from the brain.
Right, but during this active, dreaming REM sleep, that vital cleansing flow drops sharply. So our clever gull has to constantly balance the cognitive benefits of dreaming with the physical need to clean its brain.
When they do need the absolute deepest, most restorative sleep, which scientists call bihemispheric slow-wave sleep, both halves of the brain finally shut down. To do this safely, they use a posture known as back sleep. The gull rotates its neck a full 180 degrees and tucks its bill right into its shoulder feathers. Both eyes close, the muscles relax, and they finally get that maximum tissue repair and metabolic recovery.
Moving on to part three, the one-legged balancing act, biomechanics of the body.
This really begs the question, if they are fully unconscious during deep REM sleep, how on earth do they stay standing up? It all comes down to postural trade-offs. Gulls basically juggle temperature control with escape readiness using 3 main sleep postures. Standing unipedally on one leg gives them high heat retention, but slightly delays their takeoff if they get startled. Standing bipedally on 2 legs means they lose a bit more heat through their webbed feet, but they have a solid, stable platform for an explosive escape. And then there's crouching or sternum down. This is perfect for blocking a chilly wind or cooling off on wet ground by wet sitting. But it gives them the lowest escape readiness because they have to push themselves up before taking flight.
That classic one-legged stance is a massive energy saver, especially in cold weather. By drawing just one leg up into their warm abdominal contour feathers, a gull reduces the uninsulated lower limb surface area exposed to the elements by exactly 50%. It is a perfectly calibrated survival behavior. Cutting their exposure in half makes a huge difference when they are facing biting coastal winds or freezing wet sand.
For the foot that remains on the ground, they have an incredible internal adaptation called the rete mirabile. It acts as a vascular counter-current heat exchanger. Think of it as built-in thermal underwear. The arteries carrying warm blood from the gull's core to its foot actually intertwine with the veins bringing cold blood back up.
So they swap heat before the blood even reaches the foot? It cools the arterial blood closer to the outside temperature, so very little heat is lost to the icy ground.
Still, how do they physically stay balanced? It turns out it's a two-part biomechanical miracle. First is passive tensegrity. Gravity and stiff tendons literally lock the leg bones into a rigid, stable equilibrium, using absolutely zero active muscle energy.
But passive tensegrity only handles static balance. If a gust of wind hits them, they need dynamic balance. And since their main brain might be fast asleep, they rely on something truly extraordinary, the lumbosacral organ, or LSO.
This is honestly one of my favorite things about gulls. The LSO is basically a secondary spinal brain.
It has fluid-filled canals in the lower spine that sense when the bird's body tilts. When the wind blows, this organ triggers direct spinal reflex adjustments in the leg muscles.
It completely bypasses the main brain up in the head, so the gull can stay in deep, restorative sleep, dreaming away, while its spine acts as an autopilot, keeping it perfectly upright.
Let's check out Part 4, Safety in the Sleeping Flock, the Social Dynamic. Gulls mostly sleep in large communal roosts, and how they behave in these groups is governed by the group edge effect. It's this fascinating mix of collective safety and a bit of a cutthroat social hierarchy.
Think of a sleeping flock as a highly competitive real estate market. The socially dominant older gulls aggressively claim the safest spots right in the center of the group where they get that deep, two-eye-closed sleep.
That forces the younger, or subdominant birds out to the vulnerable edges. Those edge birds have to rely heavily on that half-brain, one-eye-open sleep we talked about, constantly watching outward for predators.
And interestingly, if the flock gets too dense and hyper-congested, all the squabbling and jostling for space actually ruins the overall sleep quality for everyone.
To manage this need for vigilance, gulls use a behavior called nearest neighbor peeking. A sleeping gull doesn't try to monitor the whole world. It just slightly opens an eye to check on the bird immediately next to it. If the neighbor looks relaxed and asleep, our gull goes back to sleep. If the neighbor is awake and alert, our gull copies them. This creates these incredible synchronized ripples, or sleep waves, of wakefulness and rest that just roll continuously across the entire flock. It keeps the group safe without exhausting any single bird.
All right, Part 5, Extreme Sleep Adaptations, the Evolutionary Map.
This core gull blueprint flexes remarkably depending on where in the world they live. It's quite an evolutionary map. You have the herring gull, which you might see sleeping on a flat rooftop.
Then there's the swallow-tailed gull out in the pelagic ocean, sleeping on Galapagos cliffs, and the black-legged kittiwake, which catches rest on the open ocean and sheer cliffs.
Don't forget the Bonaparte's gull. Amazingly, it nests and sleeps on the horizontal branches of coniferous trees. Just picture an arboreal balancing gull using its spinal autopilot on a branch. It's incredible. The timing of their sleep varies wildly too. The familiar herring gull's sleep clock isn't strictly tied to the sun. It's dictated by the push and pull of the tide. As low tide approaches, they wake up to forage on the newly exposed shore. Compare that to the swallow-tailed gull. They are an obligate nocturnal gull, hunting deep-sea squid that rise to the surface at night. Their sleep is synchronized to the 28-day lunar cycle. They've actually lost their daily melatonin rhythm completely, giving them this incredibly flexible, moon-driven sleep schedule. Then there's the extreme life of the black-legged kittiwake. In the winter, they sleep while literally floating on the turbulent open ocean.
And when they breed, they build precariousness on narrow ledges of sheer coastal cliffs.
To survive this, the adults sleep facing the cliff wall to hide from aerial predators.
They've even evolved a morphologically reduced hind toe, so they basically have a three-toed foot, better suited for gripping those ledges.
And their chicks are born with an absolute instinct to freeze completely still so they don't tumble off.
Finally, Part 6, The Ultimate Survivalists, Rethinking the Gull.
We started this episode looking at a bird snoozing on a railing, and we've uncovered an animal with a spinal brain, a thermal-regulating circulatory system, and the ability to sleep with half its mind. To sum it all up, research perfectly notes that gull sleep isn't just turning off. It is an active, highly organized behavioral and neurobiological process. Every time they tuck their bill or lift a leg, they are executing a delicate evolutionary balance between physiological restoration, thermal conservation, and anti-predator defense. It's a brilliantly dynamic survival strategy. So the next time you see a sleeping gull in your neighborhood, ask yourself, which half of its brain is watching you? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video and subscribe for more gull stories, urban wildlife, and the ongoing adventures of gulls.